to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, the Indiana General Assembly is done. They completed their work and they are shut down for the year. Now, we already know they was giving some of us some stress headaches and some stress sweats and all of that good stuff because they were trying to pass some nonsense. So the last week, I got a couple of things I want to read to you so that you guys know how they closed out. Casey Smith of the Associated Press reports Republican lawmakers pushed through a bill that would repeal Indiana's requirement for a permit to carry a handgun in public on Tuesday, further loosening the state's firearm laws despite public opposition from the state police superintendent and some major law enforcement organizations. The House and Senate approved the repeal as Republican lawmakers revived it last week after conflicts among GOP senators who had temporarily sidelined the issue. If you remember, I talked about this last week. They did not have any public hearings on this. The same people who are demanding that unpaid school board members host public meetings decided that they didn't feel like they needed to have one. And they get tax dollars to do that. Let's be clear. Senators approved this bill 30-20 after House members earlier voted 68-30, largely along party lines, in what was among the final issues taken up as the Republican-dominated legislature neared the adjournment. So the governor has 7 days to sign this. If he doesn't sign it, it'll go into law because they have a veto-proof supermajority. But here's the thing. The bill's provisions would allow anyone age 18 or older to carry a handgun in public except for reasons such as having a felony conviction, facing a restraining order from a court, or having a dangerous mental illness. But there's no background checks. But anyway, supporters argue the permit undermines the Second Amendment protections by forcing law-abiding citizens to undergo police background checks that can take weeks. So we'll see. The police superintendent, Doug Carter, joined by the state's Fraternal Order of Police Chiefs Association, and County Prosecutors Association, strongly objected the proposal. They maintained the permit repeal would strip officers of the screening tool for quickly identifying dangerous people they encounter who shouldn't have guns. Now, some of y'all are like, permitless carry, it sounds like a good thing because criminals are already carrying guns without permits. But you know what's really scary for me? You know how, black people who have permits to carry a gun, who tell the police, hey, I have a permit to carry a gun, and they say it out loud and they still get shot? How is this going to help them? Now, it just seems like that was that one barrier to prosecuting police officers who endanger the lives of law-abiding black and brown people. But now that barrier is gone and they can shoot to kill at any moment because they don't know if they legal or not legal. They don't have a permit or do have a permit. And when we go to get prosecutorial justice, it's all up in the air. I just want you to know, black and brown people, yes, you can go get you a gun without a permit once it goes into law, but I suggest you not carry it because you can get shot for sitting in your car without a gun. I mean, listen, you can do what you want to do. I'm not a big gun person myself, and I do not begrudge anyone who wants to have one. Do what you want to do. All I'm saying, it just seems like they just made it easier to kill us much faster. And all of y'all that like having guns, could y'all hang out with your black friends? Usually we don't get shot when we hanging out with our, less melanated friends. Could y'all be a buddy? Can y'all be like a black people buddy? I'm being silly, but I'm being serious. We're less likely to be shot and killed when we hanging out with y'all. That's all I'm saying. I think this is a bad idea. When you consider, permitless carry, it just means you can go and get you a gun and do whatever you want to. At least with the permit, if you were angry about a thing for a minute, you had to wait a little while before you could go actually get the piece. Now you don't have to. People can sell you a gun whenever they want. Good luck. Welcome to the OK Corral. In this case, it's called the IN Corral because this is Indiana. You will be able to do what you want, how you want, when you want. Good luck. I'm staying in my house. I work from home. I'm not going out anymore. I'm kidding. Y'all know I got to be in these streets. All right, Casey Smith also reports a provision that aimed to restrict Indiana students from accessing harmful materials at libraries was killed for a final time after lawmakers voted down the language in the last minute of the legislative session on Wednesday. Republican lawmakers made the last minute decision to ditch the provision, which was inserted in a bill that originally sought to modify sentencing procedures for inmates. You know, that's how they do. They be real sneaky about sneaking language in a whole nother bill. Don't have nothing to do with nothing. That was after they defeated other contentious education proposals early in the legislative session. All were part of a push by Republican lawmakers to make school curriculum transparency a top priority amid the national conservative movement against teaching concepts in K through 12 schools such as critical race theory, the concept that has become a catch-all term for the idea that racism is systematic in the nation's institutions and that they function to maintain the dominance of white people in society. There's no lie there. I just want y'all to be clear. There is no lie. And let me tell you this. See, my brain works slightly differently. I don't know. So I've been watching all of the news on Ukraine and the atrocities that the Russians are doing by invading Ukraine and the needless and senseless deaths of families. And my heart goes out to all those people. But I've been listening to commentary about it and how they talk about the situation looks like World War II and it looks like what happened in the past. And oh, this is reminiscent of. And then they begin to look at the people who are the victims of this invasion and they say, that looks like my mother, that looks like my uncle, that looks like my aunt. You see how easy it is to relate to historical, actual, factual, historical events that happen to people of European descent and how we are able to literally coalesce around Ukraine, as we should, because they are humans, right? But you are able to literally see yourself in people who are way over in another country. I'm going to need you to have that same type of empathy and sympathy and compassion for, your fellow American citizens, some who actually look like you and some who do not. Our history is just as relevant. Our history is just as important. I need you to, wrap your sympathies and empathies around people. Because, I want you to think about this. Just as you all are telling the stories of people who survived and got away from the genocide that was happening in Nazi Germany, be sure you tell the other part that they escaped to a nation that was created after a genocide and enslavement of people. Tell the truth. That's all we're saying. We want to talk about the greatness of the United States. We need to talk about how we got here. And all these people that want to trip about telling the story that, the Native Americans who are left survived what was an American genocide all the way up until World War II. You do know that, right? You do know that they had assimilation schools where they were separating children from their families all the way up to, World War II. And this was state sanctioned. So I just need y'all to understand that if you want us to have some empathy and sympathy for, and as we should, empathy and sympathy for our European brothers and sisters, I'm going to need y'all to stop introducing legislation that tells us that we can't actually learn about American history that actually happened to fellow Americans. Stop it. That's my rant on that, but I got one more. It just dropped. Listen, I can't even watch MSNBC this week because I be feeling some kind of way when they tell me, about atrocities. And when we talk about what happened, when we say, do Black lives really matter? People want to get all up in arms and say it's a racist movement. Are you kidding me? Think how we feel every time we hear something like that. Oh, wait, y'all never really did ask Black parents how they felt about critical race theory, did you? All right, Tom Davies of the Associated Press reports Indiana's individual income tax rate would be gradually cut over the next 7 years under a Republican-driven plan approved by legislators early on Wednesday. The bill would cut the state's current income tax rate from 3.23% to 2.9% in small steps until its planned full implementation in 2029, but not include some business tax cuts that face resistance from Republican senators. House members voted 82-17 and senators voted 50-0 in favor of the tax cut package that was the major remaining issue when they closed session at 12:30 a.m. So, I mean, I guess the tax cuts will be good because, who doesn't want a little bit of money back? I get it, but I mean, you were already collecting. We could probably fix some of the holes in our roof in our house. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You didn't know we had holes in the roof? You didn't feel that rain coming down on you? You didn't feel like that when rural Indiana was screaming, our kids have to go sit in the McDonald's to get high-speed internet? You didn't get that when we talked about, man, we could really use some high-speed rail around here? We, assistance with some medical care and reduce the cost of prescription drugs. I mean, you were already collecting it. Could have used it for good. But you know what? You'll get your I think it averages out to like $3.50 a year or something like that. Or, a month. But, hey, a tax cut is a tax cut, right? Who am I to balk at a tax cut? Congratulations. But if you notice one other thing, all of those reports that I read to you said Republicans did this, Republicans did that. I know they have a supermajority in the state house, and yes, gerrymandering has a lot to do with it, but you don't just legislate people for Republicans. There's a whole other group of people in this state that you have to consider at some point. Yeah, we gonna galvanize, and we gonna do some things, because that state house did some terrible stuff this year. I am still seething over the treatment of my trans youth. The fact that we had to spend so much energy fighting social studies, banning books. I thought y'all hated cancel culture, Republicans. Maybe if you sit down and talk to some more of your Democratic colleagues, maybe you'll get a better understanding of some things. But the session is over. I will do a good and bad and ugly, as our party typically brings out. I'll do that next week. But in the meantime, let's talk about how we can elect some people to make some changes to this thing. Y'all with me? First up, we have a return guest who's running in that newly minted state Senate seat on the south side of Indianapolis. Y'all welcome back to Turn Left, my girl, Ashley Eason, running for State Senate 46. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dana. It's so good to spend time with you again.
I know. Wait, I forgot to tell you, I don't have any wine. You used to do the wine and talk wine. I don't do wine on myself. Next time I'll remember. And first,
we can drink during this, please.
No. Listen. You know I try to do this on the up and up. I start having a cocktail, it might turn into something else. And a first time guest running for House District 63. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, my friend who worked with me. We worked together on a state party chair campaign. We got to know each other, and we would really have some good venting sessions. Y'all give it up for my guest, Theresa Kendall. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It's good, and it's good to hear your voice again, Dana.
Oh, well, see, I'm glad somebody likes it.
It's nice to be here.
Y'all, before we dive into y'all's campaigns, I want to ask you first and foremost, what in that session got your goat, and what in that session are you happy with? Ashley, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh, it's only tough because it's a long list of things that got my goat. I don't even know that expression. That's a good one. I like it. I had the chance to sit in for a couple hours of the Senate Judiciary Committee's review of the gun legislation. And I hoped I was going to be able to testify, but I had a doctor's appointment 2.5 hours later. They were still rolling. They were still rolling 9 hours later. And I think what was so upsetting about it is hearing some of the advocates for kind of a lawless approach to guns, with no checks and no balances and no permits. Some of the anger that I could see in the people testifying, trying to open up those rules, was pretty unsettling. And on the flip side, getting to sit with and chat with many volunteers from Moms Demand Action, and the work that they've been doing, they were up there every time that bill was up for discussion,
right?
Advocating for our kids and our communities, and they are just rock stars. And yet, the Senate Judiciary Committee didn't pass the legislation, but the Republicans found another way to get it to the table and voted it in just last night. And that, I think, particularly knowing how much effort went into so many everyday citizens, moms, teachers, folks that just really care about safety in our community, spent time going down to the State House, maybe waiting 9 hours to get to testify, sharing their opinions, and the state superintendent of police and the Republicans still chose to go against popular opinion, even in their own districts. The opinion of the state superintendent of police and moms, that they chose to do that, I think is just infuriating.
Yeah. It's not like they actually represent us, huh?
No. They might represent, I don't know, a funder or a lobbyist. I'm not really sure.
What'd you like?
And I think for the things I'm thrilled about, one, just to reiterate, getting to know advocates like Moms Demand Action is just such a highlight for me. To visit with people who are willing to sacrifice sometimes their time off from work, sometimes the cost of childcare so they can come down to the State House. I know teachers did it regularly during the session. Moms Demand Action did, and so many others stepped up to speak directly to their representatives and tell them exactly what was important for that community. That's inspiring every time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Teresa, talk about what got you hot under the collar and what you were kind of cool with.
Oh, there's so much, it's hard to decide. But as a teacher, it has to be 1134. I mean, House Bill 1134 and all the, the zombie iterations of that, horrid, absolutely horrid. What makes me more sad about this than anything, Dana, is that I've been at this since 2006, fighting, going to the State House and always at some kind of rally and talking to, legislators about don't pass this law, don't pass that law. Not once have they listened to any of us. And this was probably the worst thing that I had ever seen. And every time that we thought it was going to die, it shows up somewhere else. I think there were like 60 different bills that were filed that were all the same.
Yeah.
And my opponent actually had one that focused on everything about 1134, and he threw in stuff about masks and vaccinations. I've never, as a teacher, seen anything like that. I've never seen any school. I never thought in Indiana that we would ever have legislation that banned things that, so that you couldn't talk about this or you couldn't talk about that. It was the scariest and the most frightening thing I have ever seen in legislation. And it just basically would literally have been the death of public education.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was horrible.
And I just think about how many teachers would just be like, I'm done. I mean, we just don't even want to have an educated society. Just I'm done. And so yeah, I feel you on that one. That one was tough.
Yes, and the very thought, I mean, you stop and think about how much we already don't know because it's just not talked about. What about, Tulsa? Had anybody ever heard about what happened in Tulsa? No, when they're talking about when this happened, it's like, why didn't we learn about that in school? We already are a deficit of what we teach our kids. And then to throw legislation in on top of that says, no, you can't say this, you can't say that, and what's even more frightening is this going on all over the country, like in Florida right now. It's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Oh,
and what was most disappointing was that nearly everybody nearly every Republican in the House sponsored legislation. They wrote it, they authored it, didn't author it. They had somebody get it to them. It was sickening.
Yeah.
Sickening.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What was you cool about? That's why we end on positive notes, right?
As far as the legislation, I really couldn't see anything. I was so blindsided by the no permits for the handguns, and all of the we can't say gay legislation. That the one bright spot that I had was I went up to testify when 1134 was going to be heard in the Senate, and of course I was there for like 8 hours and I didn't get to testify. I had to go. But one of the things that was a highlight, not just because of all the teachers, and the people that they're there all the time advocating for the right thing and trying to talk to our legislators. But I was really knocked out by JD and Shelley and Fadi on the education committee. Eddie wasn't there that day, and he also, when, in other hearings that he's been in, that they're in there fighting the good fight, and they do everything for us when they're in such a minority. Mm-hmm. And it's just, they're amazing people. They really listen to people, and that's the kind of legislators that we need to get into our state legislature now. Absolutely. We need that in the Senate, and we need it in the House. We need people that are there to do the will of the people, not their donors or their crazy groups that they think that they're supporting. And as I heard one of the Republican senators say to me, that he said that the Indiana State House of Representatives has lost their mind. His exact words. And I could not agree more. Yeah. And that was coming from a longtime Indiana State Senator.
Absolutely.
Republican.
Absolutely. And see, that's what happens when you don't teach people, all the nuances of social studies. They just go in there and just be stupid. All right, y'all, let's, it was a lot. There was another piece of legislation that came out of there that I was worried about. And it was they were trying to make it a felony if a woman was coerced into having an abortion. And the reason why it was scary was because if you are a 15-year-old and your mother says, you know what, you ought to consider your future, and they go get an abortion, that is considered coercion, and the mother now is turned into a felon. There were a few things out there that just made you go, obviously y'all know that I'm not happy with the I don't know why Republicans are so afraid of trans children. I mean, my God, they're kids, but they're going after them. And yes, you are right. I have some friends down in Florida who are in that state legislature down there that have been fighting. And I'm going to actually have a few of them on. I'm going to try to get them scheduled so that you guys can hear from them. But that thing was horrible. Texas passed some more stuff. And they've been getting a lot of the headlines, and while Texas and Florida has been getting all the headlines, Indiana has been flying under the radar, being as dismissive of their tax-paying citizens as everybody else, and that's the part that's killer. I paid just like everybody else, but you don't get to sit around and tell me my history don't matter or my sexuality should be silenced. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox because we got great candidates to talk to, and while we're talking to them, Indiana's own Dana Black Turn Left, while we are talking to these amazing candidates, if you like anything that they say tonight, I have included their donate link in the description of this show. So feel free to click on the donate link. It will open up in another window. That way you don't have to leave this wonderful conversation and contribute to these candidates so they can get the money they need to get through the primary and into the General Assembly. And as usual, as I have to say now, thanks to a particular individual, yes, I'm still seething. All appearances on Turn Left. I'm not endorsing anybody in the primary, so that's just that. All right, so I'm gonna start with Teresa since Ashley, you've been on the show before. Teresa, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, I live in Du Bois County, and that is in like the toe of the boot of Indiana, if you want to call it that. Just north of Evansville and kind of south of Bloomington, Terre Haute. I live in the town of Jasper, which is the largest town here. It's where Kimball International is. You used to make pianos, and they make lots of other stuff now. It's a great place. Southern Indiana is beautiful. I mean,
it is.
Dana, come on,
I've been there.
It's south side of God's country. I'm telling you that. It is wonderful. But I moved here with my husband, who's from here. He's former state senator Mike Kendall. I retired from teaching, taught in the town of Lebanon for 20 years. And I was an art teacher, so I got riffed, meaning I got laid off and was bounced around a bit, taught in Anderson and taught IPS. Last school I was at, 105 East Side.
East Side.
I'll give a shout out to everybody at School 105. But I've taught for a long time, and now right now I'm working for Vincennes University at the campus that we have here in Jasper in admissions. But Southern Indiana is a great place, but we are just controlled by these state representatives that do not do anything for the people here. I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to you through Zoom because I can get an internet connection. But if I were just about half a mile south from here, I couldn't get it. If I were up just a little bit farther north, I couldn't do it. We have the same problems in rural parts of the state. We have the same kind of problems that you have in, parts of the east side or the west side of Indianapolis, or any major metropolitan city that might have some issues with some poverty. We don't have resources because of our location. And sometimes in metropolitan areas, you don't have resources because of economic situations, but it is the same thing. And our legislators are talking about crazy stuff that doesn't mean anything, like critical race theory that is not taught, and transparency in schools that has already existed. That you got transparency through this thing right here, this phone. All you have to do is call you the teacher and they'll say, come on in, because I need you to help me in my classroom because your kids are crazy. So there couldn't be more transparency. Parents have been able to review textbooks before they use them. They can go in and talk to administrators. They can go to the school board. There is so much transparency. Or there isn't any transparency is when we have our tax dollars going to private schools, subsidizing the cost of private schools. And that is my thing. That just one of the reasons that motivates me for this is because in places like small schools in rural Indiana, or you take a school like IPS, desperate for funds, needs every dollar that we can get, yet the state legislature has no problem siphoning funds off of the education budget, right, and sending it to private schools, right, in Indy. And not just there, it goes to Lake County, it comes down here, Vandenberg County, it goes, all over the state. But our kids don't get the money they need. The kids at IPS don't get the money they need. The kids anywhere that are in a public school don't get their, it is not the fair amount of funding that's supposed to go to them. And now we are subsidizing literally anybody who wants a voucher. And school funding is so complicated and it's boring. It's like trying to explain to people the formula for calculating Easter, or explain who your second cousin is, or your cousin once removed. You just want to go, oh God, I don't want to hear about this. It's boring. But it affects so much of what we have to do with. Republicans want to pass that tax cut. That's great for the people that have incomes. What about the regressive taxes that we have on gas tax? We have one of the highest gas taxes in the country. We're about this like ranking number 7 as far as being high. We have high sales tax. All of these things affect, working folks that pay for things out of their pocket. And our tax structure, the way we handle our funding, everything favors a particular group, and the people that are left behind are people in rural areas and people in the poorer part, the parts of major metropolitan areas that have a little bit more lower income or poverty. And we need to even this out. The Republican supermajority needs to be broke up. We need to break it up. And the way we can do that is to stand for, what we believe in, run on the issues that mean something to people. And I think that we can make a difference and we can get elected in this election cycle. I know that we can. I know that I have a lot to work with in campaigning against my opponent. But when I go to the state legislature, I intend to go there and make sure that we spend the money that we get through our state revenue on the people in Indiana and make sure it goes to them and benefits them and not special interest groups.
I love it. Okay, see, Ashley, now you got to follow that up.
Tell the
people who you are and where you come from.
I'd love to. Dana, thank you. I'm Ashley Eason. I am a Hoosier by choice. I was really lucky to find my way here. I'm not one of the lucky ones that were born here. I'm originally from Texas. So when you talked about Texas earlier, I've got very strong opinions about that. Much of my family is still there. I have lived in lots of places, lots of other cities here in this country and abroad. My undergrad degree was in communications. I went to grad school in DC for international conflict resolution.
Wait a minute. You're needed.
I spent some time in grad school in the country of Georgia. And it was just a few years after Russia had invaded Georgia and caused some similar heartache. It was a much shorter war, that it was done in just a few days. But some of the same devastation of breaking families apart and starting to control territory was what I was studying when I spent time there and talking to people who were displaced within their own country.
Yeah.
Learning all of that, I still, one day, if I get to work for the State Department or be a diplomat of some kind, I'll have so much fun. But guess what?
Meantime,
international conflict resolution skills are just as valuable here in Indiana. And I was doing advocacy work in DC, and they sent me to the Midwest, and they asked me to open up Indiana for the organization. And I got to know leaders across this state from all different backgrounds. I was recruiting business leaders, university presidents, military veterans, nonprofit leaders, and so many others from both parties who understood why it was important for us to robustly fund our State Department and diplomatic efforts. And I got to know some pretty amazing people here, and on both sides of the aisle. When my boss, who I worked for the last 5 years, called me, I was in DC, and he asked me to take a job here in Indy. I was a little skeptical because I was not looking for a global job in this state. And I've never regretted the choice to come here since. It's been a little over 5 years. Even my husband has tickets to the Indy 500 every year now. And we love it here because it's the kind of place that if you show up, you do the work, you're kind, the doors can open to you to make a difference here. And that wouldn't be true if I was not, if I'm standing here today, it must be true. Because I've only been here for 5 years, and now this is my second time to run for office. And it's because Hoosiers are welcoming, and they want people on their team that show up and do the work and are kind at the same time. And I had the opportunity to run for office in 2020. I worked really hard to help a Republican incumbent retire.
Story of my life.
right? It's the work. It's the work that will continue. And in the process of that campaign, we were outspent 4-1. Our opponent, we believe, spent somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million to keep me from taking his seat. And yet we brought out 5,200 new Democrat voters at the polls. That's a 30% increase from the previous cycle. We also cut his lead by over 10 percentage points.
Good for you.
So he only won by a little under 8 points. He had won by 19 points the previous cycle. And we did it with some innovative methods of running for office and campaigning. We did it by embracing expertise from team members that came from different disciplines and different organizations and different expertise. And we welcomed them into our team, and we asked them, how does it work in your specialty? What do we need to learn in politics that we don't use right now? And so whether it was digital advertising or using statistical modeling to predict how we were doing in the race, we found a lot of ways to be really creative about how we engage in a campaign. And I think the results that I just shared are due to being open to those new ideas, systems, methods. And I am running because, well, I should say first, I'm running in District 46. And if you haven't heard about this district, you will. Because it is relocated from the southern border of the state. So it's an open seat. It's essentially new, but it's not a new number. And it covers the heart of Indy and the east side. So much of Irvington, all the way back over to IUPUI, down into Garfield Park and Fountain Square. This district has some of the most powerful companies. It's got all of our top employers. It has our hospitality and tourism and convention business. That's the hub here in Indy. We have some of our wealthiest citizens that live in beautiful condos downtown. And we have some of our cultural hotspots like Fountain Square and Mass Ave, Irvington. And yet we also have some of our most in-need urban poor in this district.
Excellent.
It's also a 70% Biden vote district. So it's most likely to be held by a Democrat. And now you see many interested Democrats running.
Yeah, that field is deep. And I'm gonna have several of the primary opponents on. And the only thing I ask is y'all keep it classy, baby. Just keep it classy.
Of course.
I
have some classy.
I think competition is good. Because what is it? Iron sharpens iron. Is that how the saying goes? Right.
That's right.
So we're all better when we challenge each other to be better. We just got to do it with love. That's how that's me. Let's just do it with love. And what excites me about the district? It's all women. It's all women in the primary. So you got 2 women of color. I mean that. I ain't gonna lie.
It's amazing.
I'm gonna say it out loud and everybody can hear. I have been asked several times about my opinions about 46. I said, we in good hands. And they're like, who you want? We are in good hands. We good. We good.
Right.
That's what I wish every district had 4 Democrats running in it.
Thank you.
That's my
couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, instead of complaining about it, we ought to just and then when it's all said and done, whoever comes out of the primary, because the people vote, that's who we get behind, and we take all of our resources, whatever we got, and we put behind that person to win. That's what I'd like to see, but that's just me.
I love it. I also think it's a responsibility because it's a seat from which you can raise a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't need to be spent here. It needs to be spent helping Teresa get elected. It needs to be spent investing in building a bench throughout the whole state. And whoever lands in this seat has an awesome responsibility to both fundraise, like they have to have it, and also campaign as if they needed to. Because the way to get a challenge to the Republicans for statewide races is to make sure every safe seat Democrat is getting the vote out as much as they can. That's the only way we're going to have a chance at that.
I had this conversation today with 3rd District Chair Christine Bohm. We talked about, and Teresa, I want you to jump in on this because we talked about it when we were working to get Trish elected as the state party chair. We talk about the importance of galvanizing us collectively. Listen, we always sitting around worried about, well, in my opinion, we're a little bit more reactive than proactive, and we're reacting to whatever these dumb knuckleheads say about us, right? And we need to be more proactive, and the one way we could do that is pooling our resources, and like you said, in a safe district, a D in a safe district, continue to raise that money. Raise all the money you can so that you can give it to in the areas that could use a little help, like Teresa, chime in on this, because I know we talked about this a lot.
Well, one of the things that's really important to do in an election is make sure that you as a candidate lift up everybody else that's running in your county or in your area. And that's what we have to do here. We're in a the area wide, the county is large, but the population is kind of small. And we have to lift up every candidate and make sure that when I get my message out, if I get their message out too, then we're all going to win. And the same thing, like Ashley was saying, we support each other. We have a good friend in the 8th district, Ms. Joni Kenizer, that always says, what are you going to do to get a Democrat elected today?
Right.
And that is something that I like to think about, is what am I going to do to help the rest of the candidates in my district, in, Davies County, our buddy Ron Critchlow, he works as hard as anybody to keep that place going. And also in Martin County, which is part of my district, a little slice of Pike County, you could not get any more southern Indiana than that. There are more trees where I live than there are people. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And we're trying to hang on to those trees because there's an awful lot of Republicans that want to knock them down. But we do have to do everything we can to lift each other up and make sure that if you're in an area where you can make a lot of money, if Ashley raises a lot of money and she can help people in other parts of the state get elected, then she's going to benefit and we're all going to benefit. And that's something that I think sometimes some of the Democrats have forgotten, but not everybody. I mean, we all support each other and help each other, but we are the party that have the issues that people, are interested in. And we need to talk about that.
Absolutely.
We're not going to talk about this silly stuff of, banning books and, letting anybody walk around like we're, back in, some cowboy movie, everyone walking around with a handgun. It is, the state is a big state. It has a lot of different attitudes and beliefs and ideas. People in Southern Indiana have guns, they hunt and they shoot for recreation. It's a whole different thing when you're in Indianapolis. And we have to recognize that and respect it. But there's no reason why we can't find some commonality in some issues about things that we all have to deal with. In education, how our families have to exist, what we have to do to make this the good place that it already is. It just needs to be made better. And the only way we're going to change that is if we do everything we can to help each other get elected. And,
absolutely.
That's what we do in the 8th district. I'm secretary of 8th district. We're the largest congressional district.
Shout out to Thomasina Marcelli, 8th
yes,
district chair.
Yes, absolutely. We're working hard. But I'm telling you, we're going to do all we can to try to get our candidates elected in this cycle. I think we have a great chance. And one of the things we're going to talk about is how great, our president's been doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do not bring that up enough. We're letting other people change the message as if there's something wrong. And there's not, the economy's cranking. And, we're all doing well. Everybody's doing well. We need to keep that, up front, center of this election.
Absolutely. And see, now my ADD is special. I realized that I didn't like the way the screen looked. So I changed it. While y'all were talking, I changed it. I didn't like it. I fixed it. Anyway, I'm weird like that. Yeah. I'm weird like that. I'll edit that out. But anyway, all right. So now, we have an opportunity. If we get both of you guys in the State House, tell me a couple of pieces of legislation you want to work on in partnership with incumbent Democrats and if you can possibly work across the aisle. Ashley, you can go first.
Cool. Okay. I like this question. I'm really excited about the opportunity to serve, partly because I've spent so much time in my career working to influence Republicans, working to advocate for funding for a specific federal budget. And I kind of enjoy the challenge of flying just a little under the radar with them. And you sell them something that they want.
Okay.
And they can have credit for it. I don't care. I just want to get the legislation passed. So one of the things I think that's really been troublesome for Indianapolis in these last few sessions is that there are members of the legislature that have part of their district in Indy and part of their district outside of Indy. And they have just been relentlessly attacking the city.
Baby.
Issues that our residents overwhelmingly support, they have voted for in a referendum, and at the same time, things that we would never support that they're fighting for. And that's why I was working so hard in 2020 to help Jack Sandlin retire. And one of the issues that to me is really interesting is public transportation. The city of Indianapolis voted overwhelmingly that we were willing to make choices to get rapid transit in this city. And it's not because it's cool or trendy. It is, though. It's fun. When you live in a city that you can actually reasonably use public transit throughout the city and have it be reliable, it's pretty fun. I've had the chance to live in a city like that. But our Republican state senators keep trying to undo all the things that Indianapolis residents desire.
That we want. Right? Like,
right.
Again, like
and
we
need.
don't matter. Like, I mean, and
if
you can't tell me, there's no better way to say, y'all don't mean a dang thing to me than to really, we're almost 1 million strong. There's only 6 million in the whole state, in one county. Whew.
Yep. And with public transit, it is in their business-minded interest to have effective and accessible public transit that is reliable and it's going everywhere and it's running frequently because it's a business interest.
Absolutely.
It will make sure that employees and customers can access their business, because it's not true that everyone has a car. Not everyone does, not everyone can afford it. Even those that can't afford it maybe can't drive one because of a disability. We need access to transit options. It's not just the bus. The bus is an important component of it. And working on legislation like that would be really fun for me, because there is a real business interest at stake there. If you want to build a facility for your business in a part of the city that has no transit access, how are your employees going to get to work?
You know what? And if you could just add a caveat in that bill, I think there's
Please.
Also an opportunity for us. I know that you're talking Indy centered, but we're talking about using state funds. How about maybe some transit from like Columbus to Indiana, or from Kokomo to from Columbus to Indianapolis, Kokomo to Indianapolis, because
or Jasper, which is 2.5 hours away. Yeah,
well, it would be that shuttle might need a little work, but if we can get a train.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? If we can get some rail from Evansville to Indianapolis, and then from Indianapolis maybe to Lake County or Fort Wayne, come on. Again, we could do so much better. But we just got people that want us to be like in Fred Flintstone cars using our feet.
They want to punish Indianapolis because we're doing well.
Because we're progressive.
Yep, and we need to do better. And instead of understanding that every community outside of Indy across the state benefits from Indy's success, they try to not make us successful. And unfortunately for them, what they don't realize is that has an impact directly on investment opportunities in
Eli
their
Lilly's Cummings is now having location here because they couldn't get people in Columbus. NCAA, the list goes on and on and on. Rose Farm, we are the economic hub of the entire state, and they treat us like I don't know.
Mm.
They look. You know how they treat us? Like we Ukraine and they Russia. What else would you like to work on? You just got me going with that one. Yes. What else you got? And then I'm gonna bring in Teresa.
Let's see what else. I think can I make a pivot and not about legislation?
Sure.
I think if I have the chance to serve, what I would like to do is focus a lot on helping build up our party. Right now,
you can do that with or without being elected. You know that, right?
That is true. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I will be doing it either way. But I do think that, I've had these conversations with a lot of Democrats over the last few months. And sometimes when I share my story and my thoughts with them, they say, "Are you running for party chair?" And I say, "No." That's one person. Our party chair is one person. He's doing a great job. What we need is people at all levels of our party, everyone from a volunteer to a precinct committee person to elected officials, from school board all the way up to our, Senate candidates, thinking like a party chair and thinking about how they can support the growth of our party, which requires building up volunteers, engaging with voters every year, every month, not just the 6 weeks before the election. And I want to work to help make that a part of our culture as a party. And I think it requires having people invest in that at every level in our party. We can't leave it up just to Mike. He's one person. We need tons of people supporting his agenda and his vision and thinking about it as their responsibility to do their part in their space.
I'm gonna need you to stop taking residence in my brain. I don't even understand what made you think you could come in my house and just live in there and start spewing out what I believe in my heart and in my mind. Shame on you. You should at least ask, can you squat?
I should have brought wine, is what you're saying. And then we can just be in that space together next time.
Teresa, is she not speaking our language?
Yes, yes. We're sisters.
Oh my God. I mean, when your campaign is done, win, lose, or draw, I'ma holla at you because we got work to do. All right, Teresa, tell us about what pieces of legislation you want to take on when you win your election.
Well, it's got to be education. It's got to be education. It's my thing. I've done this my whole life. And, we have to spend the money that we have for education better. It's not going where it needs to go. I get it that we give people who go to private schools money, but I think we need to transition that out. Let them have some tax credits. It's something so that they can still feel like they get a little bit of a benefit for following their choice. But we need to stop funding 3 different school systems. And it is charter schools, vouchers are meant to destroy our public education, and it's just chipping away. It's like people say, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yes. It's got to change. We're going to lose our teachers. We're going to lose our public schools. And where it affects the most is the East Side. In 105, where I was at, it also affects the schools right here. And agriculture is a major industry in the state of Indiana. And our agricultural areas are dependent upon our public schools. And we need to make sure that our public schools all over the state are protected. And we can't do that with the funding formula that we have now.
Right.
And I realize that no one's going to go there and change it, snap their fingers and change it overnight. But I think when you work with a lot of Republicans, and Dana, you know this really well, that there are a lot of people in both parties that are very pro-public education. But when that other group gets together in their caucus, you know what their leaders tell them? We're going to vote for this. We're going to vote for that.
Yeah, ask Todd Houston. He lost his whole gig over it. He lost his $500,000 gig over. I don't care what they say in the press.
Yep.
You don't just give up.
He got fired. We know. We don't know it. And it's because he said this is what we have to vote for. We have to vote for this. And that is
$500,000.
what happens. And that's what happens when you have a super majority. There are a lot of people in the state legislature that would not have voted for some of this crazy stuff that was there. And we need to have a legislature that shows the balance of the people of Indiana. And we have to make sure that we serve all areas. Just like Ashley was talking about, Indianapolis is a large major metropolitan area, and the supermajority seems
hell-bent,
praised about attacking it. Public transportation in Indianapolis, tell me what that has to do. How can I explain to folks down here in Southern Indiana that your guys are up there, beating on people in Indianapolis over public transportation? And y'all here are not even interested in the fact that they're taking your tax dollars that are supposed to go to your kids in your public schools, and they're letting people who go to $30,000 a year private schools have that money to go. And so what we need are people who are willing to go there and work with the legislators that respect and understand how important public education is and how we spend our tax dollars. And one of the things, explaining this stuff can be boring to people, but I think as long as you communicate on a regular basis and try to help all of your constituents understand what's going on. When you talk to Ashley about some of the things, like things that she would do, something outside of the legislature that I will do as a state representative is that I will hold monthly constituent meetings here in the district.
You mean you're not scared of your constituents? You're not
I am
afraid
not
to go
scared
in
of
the
my
community?
constituents. And my state representative and my state senator, we all know who he is, Mr. Mark Messmer. They run when a meeting is over. They come to the meeting late, they leave early, so they don't have to have any questions asked. I will actually hold public meetings. The public can come and see me and talk to me. I will make sure that I have a local person here that they can talk to at any time, call and say, this is a problem I'm having, the state's trying to, do whatever. We need to make sure that we talk to the people that vote for us. And we have to remember that when we go to Indianapolis, we vote on behalf of the people that put us there, even the ones who didn't put us there. Remember, Barack Obama said, when I'm elected, I'm the president of all the people, not just the ones that elected me.
I love it.
And that's the problem that we have with our state legislature. I don't even think they represent the people who voted for them. I think they represent a lot of special interests, and they forget about what the people of Indiana want. Why do we have the highest healthcare costs in the nation? The third highest. That's because we didn't take the Medicare expansion, and for everybody that can't pay a hospital bill, which is fine, we should all support it, but we're all taking on that cost. When we didn't take Medicaid, we're paying the highest drug prices in this state. We have the highest cost for nearly everything. Gasoline, because of our gas tax is high.
Well, we ain't California though. Hold on.
No,
they
right.
almost at $7.
You're absolutely right. But what all of this comes down to is we have a state legislature that doesn't do things for the people that vote them in their office. And we need to change that. And the Democrats are the ones that are the ones that are here for the people. And that's what I will do. I have worked to help people my entire life. I've been a teacher for over 30 years. And there is no better experience in your life. I'm sure there's others, but for me, there was no better experience than, helping families navigate life with their children and making sure that they got education they needed. And it's a great experience for being a legislator. And I can tell you that when I am elected, that is the one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I work for the people of Southern Indiana, all of them, even the ones that don't vote for me or haven't. But that's what we need to do. We need to have more connection with our voters, with the public, with everybody. And when we do that, we'll win. We'll be successful. And Indiana will be a better place.
I love
and
it.
attract more great people like Ashley to come here and live.
Hello, because Representative uh, out of the 3rd congressional district, Jim Banks was talking about how come no, I'm sorry. He went after Indianapolis. Why has Indianapolis lost the 3rd largest amount of tech jobs? And then, my response to his dumbass tweet was, because smart people know we have leaders like you. So why would smart people come where they're going to be discriminated against? The kids going to be discriminated against. They're trying to ban books. They don't want you to have health care. They don't want you to have, why would they come here? They're smart. They can go wherever they want. Anyway, do y'all realize we have gone through that hour just that quick? And we are running over. But before we go, first, Ashley, Teresa, tell the people where they can find you.
My website is kendallfor63.com. I am on Facebook at kendallfor63. And I think I have Twitter. I'm not very good at tweeting. I really am terrible at it.
Get on that Twitter. It'll make you mad. Get on the Twitter.
I know. I'm trying really hard. And if you're ever hanging out in Jasper, Indiana, which I know lots of people do, you can find me at Vincennes University Jasper campus. It's absolutely beautiful. And that's, but
and do you have any fundraisers or events coming up?
We are going to have some in the near future with our congressional candidate, Ray McCormick. We're planning a fundraiser probably sometime in July here in Jasper. I can't give you the details of that yet, but we will be having some great fundraisers, activities, and that will always be available not only on the 8th District website, but also on my website and my Facebook page. Excellent. And I'll promise I'll start tweeting.
Don't go anywhere. Ashley, tell the people where they can find you.
Okay, website, ashley4indiana.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The other thing I will say is we do have events going on between now and May 3rd, a lot. So we're canvassing every Saturday morning. You can learn all about that on the website and some of our other events. We're doing coffee events on Saturday mornings too. So come as a voter, come and meet me. Please come and chat with me. Ask me all the questions you have. We're doing some cocktail evenings too, because not everyone wants to get up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. I get it. So maybe it's after work and come grab a drink with us. And the other thing is we are really fortunate to be renting at a big discount a space on the east side in Irvington on East Washington Street. And we want voters, as Teresa was saying, I want you to stop by and chat. I want you to ask me the questions that you've not had answered by your previous senator and representatives.
All right.
And we want to use this space to welcome voters in. So if you reach out to me by email, that's on the website, we'll make sure we have a chance to meet with you in person and chat about this. And if you're a volunteer here in Indy or anywhere else, and you want a morning of fun and getting face-to-face with voters, come and canvass with us.
All right. Now, final question. You guys didn't know I was going to ask it, but whenever I have two guests that are ladies, it's ladies' night and the feeling's right. Okay. It's Women's History Month. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it. And then I'm going to give you a 30-second opportunity to answer. What woman inspires you the most, or past, present, living ancestor? And Teresa, you go first. Yep.
Okay.
I got you. I got you.
This isn't anybody who's famous unless you've been to school 105.
Doesn't matter.
But I got to teach with Ms. Pearlie Gale, music teacher at 105, and she changed my life.
Let me tell you something. My sister, that's my sister's sister, Sabe Martin.
Yep.
I'm going to tell her, I'm going to text her that I had a guest on my show that talked about how much she loved teaching with your sister. She posts all the time about her sister. I don't think I got a chance to meet her. I can't remember, but
you would never have, you would remember if you met her.
I think that's so wonderful. Shout out to you, Sabe Martin. All right. Ashley, who's that woman that inspires you?
So there's too many to pick one, but I'm going to pick one that's modern. And it's because I think a lot of women that choose to run for office hesitate a lot. And what did they say? You have to be asked 6 or 7 times to get a woman to run for office. And I want to give a shout out to State Representative Carrie Hamilton.
Hey,
she is one of the first elected women here in Indiana who, when I spoke to them about running, took me seriously and didn't say, oh, yeah, okay. She was like, wait, you can do this. I can help you do this. I'm going to introduce you to this person, and just believed in me in a way I hadn't had anyone that knew what they were talking about do at that time. And she's continued to be a confident and become a friend of mine. And I'm very much inspired by her and the way she's serving, both in her role as a representative, but also in her environmental advocacy work.
All right. And so this week, I said I forgot to do it last week. I was going to do it, but I was upset about some other stuff. But this week, I'm going to start with one of the women that inspired me is Representative Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. Not only was she an amazing politician, she was savvy in how she got down, but she was an amazing orator. So she could give, she was the first Black woman to give the keynote at the Democratic National Convention, which has been a goal of mine for a long time. I thought I was getting close. We were running up on 2020, and I thought, well, maybe I can be, one of the speakers for the state party. And I've been building my career, trying to get to that point. And then COVID came and shut me down, shut us all down. But Barbara Jordan is one. In week 1 that I'm talking about, those most powerful, amazing women. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Turn Left. This is why we do this. Thank
you very much. It's been great.
This was fun. It was so fun. I looked down and it was 7:55. I'm like, dang, it's time to go. But this was great. You guys are amazing conversationalists. I really, really appreciate having you on. And final note, to all the candidates out there who are looking for some online presence, or you need a video shot, you see the QR code that's right there? That QR code, scan that code. That is my information. Let's connect and let's talk about how I and Black Pearl Studios can help you get a video together and do some online work to get your message out, because I know you're not raising the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and paid media is really, really expensive. So let's figure out how we can use this social media to help increase traffic flow to your donation site, your campaign site, so people can know who you are. And we will discuss my fee on that, but we want to definitely, oh yeah, listen, Indiana's own can't.
You got to do it.
You can't do, I can't do everything for free. Right?
Nope. It's all right. We all gotta make a living.
Hey, I'm fortunate enough to make a living, but I also know the services, like you guys talked about, building up the party and also building up our community. This is how I do it. I do it by giving people low-cost options to get what they need out. And as you can see, even in my mental state, I can change things around and make a video look good. All right. Indiana's own Dana Black. All right. We got another show coming. And listen, we are booked up solid. I'm bringing you these candidates so that you can find out who they are. Be sure to, I got a Spotify. Oh my God. Go to my YouTube page. There's all these places that you can visit. Indiana Talks. There's a lot of places you can get this information about these candidates, and share with your friends. Share. Even if you can't watch it live, there's a way for you to share that information with people who are like-minded, or if you want to change some minds. All right. Indiana's on Dana Black. Turn Left. I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.